Hello, East Bay community. We are coming to you from Student Health and Counseling Services. My name is Erin Harrell. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and one of the counselor faculty here.
And I'm Andy Spivack, and I'm an associate clinical social worker here at Cal State East Bay.
And we just wanted to share some tips, some mental health tips for managing changing COVID guidelines, and coming back together in person.
Yeah, many people are asking themselves these kinds of questions right now. Like, when will things go back to normal? What is the new normal? And why am I so nervous about returning to normal?
Right. So although we are coming back together in many ways, this experience has changed us. Uh, Activities, social engagements, they all feel different. And it may not be possible to return to what life felt like before the pandemic, but it might be an opportunity to build something new. So here are some tips to help ease reentry.
Yeah, and number one is thinking about how you can create healthy boundaries. So after a year of having most of our contact over Zoom, we've really grown accustomed to just kind of rolling from one meeting to the next in our homes. And in this moment, we have a chance to recreate some boundaries between our home, work, and school life that we may have been missing out over the last year. So thinking about how you can do that, but it also gives us an opportunity to reestablish or even reimagine some routines and structures that we may have put on pause during the pandemic.
Right. And number two, feeling anxious about this transition is completely normal, right? So over the last year and a half, we've taught ourselves to perform certain routines that were initially quite strange, right? So we had significantly reduced the amount of time we spent out of the house because our workplaces became our home offices. We checked for a mask before leaving the house. Before socializing with friends, we may ask questions related to the number of people that will be in attendance, the mask policy, the vaccination rate now. Maybe we've avoided crowds of people and refrained from eating inside of restaurants. So if we can lean into accepting that things will feel strange for a while, that's a very natural reaction in light of what's been going on. So acknowledge the uncertainty that still exists in the world and focus on what you can control.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to our third point, which is to move at your own pace where you can. So in some situations, we may have to do some things that we might be a little uncomfortable with, but for the most part, we're going to be able to set our own pace. So if you feel uncomfortable or anxious about certain activities or settings, be willing to say no is really important. We all have to move at our own pace, and that's really okay. And while you're doing that, give yourself some grace at adjusting to your different relationship to time management. Like we said, like, you've been at home a lot and just roll from one meeting to the next. Now we got to commute. Now we got to schedule appointments. We got to show up on time and move between spaces. So give yourself a little grace as you adjust to that. But also remembering to extend that grace and acceptance to others who may be handling reentry differently. Because again, we all need to move at our own pace, and we need to make sure that we allow others to do that as well.
Absolutely. And tip number four, try a positive reframe. So this is a moment of transition and a learning opportunity. An opportunity to ask, what has been working well? What do we want to keep doing? For example, maybe your schedule has been less packed and you've enjoyed that. Or you've spent more time with loved ones or developed new hobbies that you don't want to let go of. So what are the things that you might be looking forward to about making some of these re-entry changes, building these new schedules? Maybe we can appreciate things we used to take for granted, such as seeing friends and family in person. So I think if we can look at this moment as a chance to take advantage of having more options, maybe we feel more positive and in control.
Yeah, and that's a great point, which leads us to our last tip, number 5, do activities you enjoy, right? So we've all missed some activities over the last year that we just haven't been able to do because of the pandemic. So it may be helpful to start to think about, what are these things and how might I be able to integrate them back into my life? And that could be anything from, just going outside and hanging out with people, which maybe you're avoided, or hanging out with people inside, going to a museum, going to a concert, whatever it might be, but making sure that you're doing things that you're comfortable with and not jumping in too quickly, right? And in the case that you do, and maybe you find yourself doing something new or maybe something old that you haven't been able to try and feeling a little overwhelmed, it's totally okay to take a step back, reassess, get back in your comfort zone, and think about what you can do that's most comfortable for you.
Yep, and getting support is as important now as it ever was, right? Continuing to engage in community, reaching out to friends. Maybe you will develop your own tips that you can share with people around you. And know that student health and counseling is here to support you. You can check out our website to register for counseling or group services. Check out our wellness videos. Check us out on Instagram. So you can find all of those goodies at csueastbay.edu/SHCS, or you can talk to someone at the front desk at 510-885-3735. And we look forward to seeing you in counseling or in a group and going through all this together.
Yeah, absolutely. See you all out there and take care. Have a good school year.